is facing two major decisions to be made this week. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described the upcoming summit talks as pivotal for Europe. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni backed France and agreed it is too early to seal the EU-Mercosur deal.
Greek MEP Nikos Papas has been suspended from left-leaning party Syriza and will be referred to the Ethics Committee after he allegedly attacked a journalist at a bar in Strasbourg.
The UK issued a license to allow the funds from the €2.8 million sale of Chelsea Football Club to be transferred to a Ukraine fund. This week, the European Union is facing two major decisions that could shape its global image. First, it must decide how it can keep Ukraine economically afloat and able to withstand Russian aggression. Secondly, it must choose whether to seal a free trade deal with the South American Mercosur countries. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described the upcoming summit talks as pivotal for Europe's security and independence and warned of the dangers of the rapidly shifting world order.
Europe must be responsible for its own security. This is not longer an option, this is a must. And we know the threats that we face and we will confront them. This means we need to be ready. We have to develop and deploy new capabilities so that we can fight a modern hybrid war. Here again, we are moving mountains. After decades of underinvestment, we are turning a corner.
The two crucial talking points have resulted in division within the bloc. On Ukraine, von der Leyen is in favour of using frozen Russian assets for Ukraine's reparation loan, but Belgium remains unconvinced and continues to demand for the risks to be equally distributed between EU countries. And on the Mercosur trade deal, which needs the backing of the majority of member states, some countries remain undecided like Italy or have voiced their opposition like France. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni backed France and agreed it is too early to seal the EU-Mercosur deal. Meloni clarifies that this does not mean Italy intends to block or oppose the agreement, but rather seeks to improve it. The Mercosur trade deal was struck by the European Commission in 2024 with Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay. EU farmers argue that it would expose them to unfair competition, while supporters of the deal say it would unlock new markets vital for the EU economy. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was hoping to finalize the deal this month and planned to travel to Brazil to sign it. However, this is not possible without the approval of all member states first. France, Hungary, Poland and Austria have opposed the deal, with France leading the opposition, calling for stronger safeguards to protect farmers from unfair competition, as well as a reciprocity clause that would require Mercosur products to meet the same production standards as within the EU. The EU member states are due to vote on the deal this week, but France sought to delay this to the new year.
Greek MEP Nikos Papas has been suspended from left-leaning party Syriza and will be referred to the Ethics Committee after he allegedly attacked a journalist at a bar in Strasbourg. In a statement, Syriza President Socrates Famelos said the MEP had also been expelled from the party's group in the European Parliament. The journalist Nikos Yiannopoulos, a reporter for Greece's News 24/7 website, said he was attacked by Papas on Tuesday evening. He claimed that Papas deliberately tripped him and subsequently hit him twice on the head from behind as he was leaving the bar. Yiannopoulos filed a complaint with Strasbourg authorities on Wednesday.
So, of course, Kosovo's not
Joining the EU is Kosovo's destiny, President Vjosa Osmani told Euronews Morning Show Europe today, emphasizing its complete alignment with the bloc's values.
As an identity, as a country, as a nation, we've been contributing to the values on which the European Union stands for centuries. So we strongly believe that while it's a very complex process, if the merit-based criteria is used, Kosovo actually would have been a front runner by now.
Kosovo applied for EU membership in December 2022, but holds only potential candidate status. Its path to accession is complicated by non-recognition from 5 EU states and the need for a political agreement with Serbia, which refuses to recognize the independence of its former province, declared in 2008. Meanwhile, Russia and China have sought to expand their influence in the Western Balkans.
The European Union, if the transatlantic relationship is not, of course, having its influence in the Western Balkans, someone else will come, not for charity, but because they have strategic interests there.
In this year's assessment of candidate countries, the European Commission praised Kosovo's commitment to EU accession, but noted that elections and political deadlock delayed reforms. Kosovo has recently been mired in a political crisis after parties repeatedly failed to form a government following the February vote. It will hold snap parliamentary elections on the 28th of December. The European Union and United Kingdom have finalized a deal to reintegrate British students into the Erasmus Plus scheme in 2027. It takes place 7 years after the UK formally left the EU, including all its institutions and bodies. The British government had been under considerable pressure from student bodies, including universities, to rejoin Erasmus+. Yet a history of proportionately lower take-up by British students studying in the EU made the British government reluctant. More than 100,000 people from the UK are likely to benefit from the programme in 2027, according to the British government.
Good morning, everyone.
The deal is being hailed in London as a step towards greater EU-UK relations, but the recent failure to agree on UK involvement in the Safe Defence Fund has critics complaining about a piecemeal approach to Europe.
The United Kingdom issued a license to allow the funds from the sale of Chelsea Football Club to be transferred to humanitarian causes in Ukraine. Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich sold Chelsea in 2022 under pressure from the British government. The funds from the sale have since then been frozen. UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer is now allowing him to use the money, but only to help Ukraine. Under the new license, proceeds must be directed to humanitarian causes in Ukraine, but future gains may be spent more broadly on victims of conflicts worldwide. The UK sanctioned Abramovich in a crackdown on Russian oligarchs after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, which had triggered the rushed sale of the English Premier League football club. The UK government has now promised to establish a foundation to disperse the funds, headed by the former head of UNICEF UK.
Police in Spain have cleared an abandoned school north of Barcelona where around 400 mostly undocumented migrants were living. Many sub-Saharan migrants from countries such as Senegal and Gambia had occupied the empty building in Badalona town since 2023. Badalona's mayor, Javier Garcia Albiol, known for his anti-immigration stance, announced the eviction on social media. Most residents left ahead of Wednesday's winter operation, but lawyers warn many will now end up sleeping on the streets. Local authorities must offer access to social services, though they are not obliged to find housing for everyone. Community groups say a wider housing crisis is forcing even people with work permits into unsafe squats.
The Louvre Museum will remain partially closed this Wednesday as employees voted to extend a strike. Union workers are protesting what they call untenable working conditions, including understaffing as well as recent management decisions.
We would like to have more employees in this in our museum. That's our first revendication. So more employees. We would like our direction takes really care of the building and of the security of our museum, and we would like our direction quit the difference of prices to enter in our museums.
Culture Ministry had sought to ease tensions by announcing several measures. However, unions argue that these commitments fall short and instead call for long-term guarantees. On Monday, the Louvre didn't open as usual, leaving visitors, some who had travelled long distances during the busy end-of-year period, standing in front of the museum's closed doors. On Wednesday, the museum said visitors entered the building again, but were limited to a certain route.
The suspected gunman in Sydney's Bondi Beach massacre was charged with 59 offences on Wednesday, including 15 counts of murder and 1 count of committing a terrorist act. Police said 24-year-old Naveed Akram was charged after waking from a coma in a Sydney hospital, where he has been since police shot him and his gunman father, who died at the scene. Akram was also charged with 40 counts of causing harm with intent to murder in relation to the wounded, and with placing an explosive near a building with intent to cause harm. The charges came as funerals began for the 15 victims of the massacre that targeted an event to mark the start of an 8-day Hanukkah festival at Bondi Beach. Hundreds of mourners gathered to honor the victims, all of whom identified so far were Jewish. They ranged in age from a 10-year-old girl to an 87-year-old Holocaust survivor. A heavy police presence was visible on nearby streets, with officers checking identification cards of people making their way to the service. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese vowed to take action to fight rising anti-Semitism and tighten the country's already strict gun laws.